Good afternoon, and welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I'm Razzle, and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. I am here to take a look at the pitching for today, the 10th of July. It is Friday, and we do have a 12-game main slate ahead of us this evening. I don't believe we should have much to worry about weather-wise. I think there's a potential in-game delay. Can't remember which park off the top of my head. Maybe St. Louis. That I guess could technically affect the pitching options in that game. Really, we're only considering one of the two, anyways. So we'll want to pay attention to potential timing there. It's definitely something to pay attention to, and from my understanding, it's tough to predict exactly where it's going to go. But I guess we'll just take a look at pitching for what it is and wait on updates over the next couple hours. A reminder that this is a first look at the pitching options on the slate, and I will be looking at DraftKings as that is where a majority of my action is. If you play in FanDuel, cut my pool in half or so. Pricing isn't quite as tight. You don't have to be as creative. It allows you to get stacks you want with an upper tier-ish pitcher. Let's just jump right in, since we have just a little under 3 hours before the slate gets started. I want to get this out to you guys to help you break down your pools and trim it down to something that's more reliable or usable, I guess. Brandon Young has pitched pretty well, better than I would have thought, but he hasn't been spectacular. So on a 12-game slate, I just don't think I'm getting there. He is at home where he has been a bit better, which is weird to say because generally the pitching has been worse in Baltimore. He's kind of buoyed by having that one elite start at home against Seattle because none of his other starts are over 19 fantasy points. So I think on a 12-game slate, I'm okay with passing on Brandon Young. Luinder Avila has been 18 plus in 3 out of his last 4 starts, 20 plus in 2 out of his last 4, 1 run allowed in 3 of his last 4. I think I'm closer to using Avila than I am Brandon Young, but I don't really know if I'm going to get there. On the road, he's only allowed 2 home runs in 34 innings. His road numbers are phenomenal compared to whatever those home numbers are. Tough to explain the vast difference between his home road splits, but walks are a big issue, and that always worries me because I think he's probably due some runs allowed aggression on the road if he's going to walk that many dudes. He walks more than that at home, but still, it's a lot of walks. 19 walks in 34 innings. That's closer to, 5 walks per 9? It's a lot of walks. I don't think I'm going to get to Avila, but like I mentioned, I do think he is a little more intriguing than Brandon Young is. Cubs and the Reds in Cincinnati, so it's a tough spot to, I guess, really want to look at pitching. The biggest question, I think, or I guess one of the bigger questions on this slate is what do we do with Hunter Green? Strikeouts were fine in his first start of the season, but run prevention, base runners were not. He allowed 11 base runners and 3 1/3. They did let him throw 89 pitches despite getting knocked around. So the real question is he going to still be rusty? Does he bounce back a little bit after whatever that start was? It's kind of up in the air, but I like the raw upside of Hunter Green, so I think I am going to be using him, but I am going to definitely be stacking Cubs bats, especially Seiya Suzuki. I think Suzuki's pretty much owned Hunter Green so far in their career matchups, but I want to believe that Hunter Green bounces back. On the other shoulder in Managa, he dominated the Reds the one time he faced them. I just don't know if I get. He has been pretty decent on the road. I just don't think I'm going to get there. Really tough for me to do it on a 12-game slate. I would guess that his dominance of Cincinnati at home in May came with the wind blowing in. Don't quote me for sure, but I have a feeling that was it because his home starts are very drastic based on what the wind is doing. Wind blowing in, he's been dominant. Wind blowing out, he's been absolutely abysmal. So he can have a home run issue. I don't really think I want to have a pitcher with home run issue in this ballpark. I'm gonna side with Cincinnati Reds in this game. Seattle, Tampa Bay. Luis Castillo, I'm just not getting there. Tampa Bay strikes out the fewest amount in all of baseball, and Luis Castillo is just not much of a K guy anymore. Four strikeouts in 4 straight starts. Season high of 7, which was start number 1. Since then, it's been 6. I just don't see the upside in Luis Castillo this evening. On the other side, Nick Martinez. Sounds like he is making it to the All-Star game as a replacement. Does get a K boost in this matchup, even though he's not much of a K guy. The problem is like over the last, 2 months? 3 months almost? 2.5 months? His highest fantasy point performance is 21 DK points. Aside from that, it's 17. So, I mean, I think I'm going to play Nick Martinez ahead of like Brandon Young and Luinder Avila. I just don't know that I want to go super heavy. I get the increased K upside in the matchup, but it's tough to predict that he's just going to suddenly strike out some dudes. He just doesn't really strike them out. He allows more base runners when pitching at home. I don't know. It doesn't feel like the greatest spot, I'm going to be honest. Cleveland, Miami. We get Parker Messick and Sandy Alcantara. Messick has been pretty solid this season. I don't think I'm getting there against Miami. They've been scoring runs. They've kind of been annoyingly solid against left-handed pitching as well. Messick has been better on the road, but he allows a lot more home runs on the road. So even though I don't expect Miami to hit too many home runs, I just don't know if Messick is a guy I want to rely on. I'm going to dig more into it just to get an idea. But right now I'm leaning on the fade of Parker Messick. The other side, Sandy Alcantara. 20 plus in 5 of his last 6 starts. Pretty good stretch for Alcantara. His one that wasn't was in Coors, and he had a walk issue. Walk issues are obviously something to worry about. He walked 8 in back, 2 starts. But it had been 9 starts since he totaled more than 8 walks. So I don't think we're going to see much of a walk issue, but it's always possible. His home numbers are so much stronger than road. I'm going to play Sandy Alcantara tonight. Boston and the Mets. Now, this is an interesting spot. Boston had some issues in Chicago, and they didn't take off from Chicago until this afternoon at some point. I'm not sure what to do. I'm going to play Sonny Gray because he's just been so good, and he is, I don't know, probably a bit pissed off about being overlooked for the All-Star game. So maybe we get another strong Sonny Gray performance. 1 earned run or fewer in 5 of his last 7 starts. He has only 1 start this year where he's allowed more than 3 earned runs. I think he's in play even though some of the Mets bats have heated up. I'm going to utilize some Mets just in case Gray is affected by the late arrival into New York. But I think he's probably in a better spot than the Mets or the Boston Red Sox hitters. Speaking of the Red Sox hitters, you got Nolan McLean on the other side. I kind of like him because of this, roll from the airport straight to the park. Could be a little bit of an issue there. It's minor, but I still think it could have some effect. Less than a month ago, we saw what his upside was. 35 fantasy points. Strikeouts have come down the last couple starts, but it's been against Toronto, who doesn't really strike out all that much in Atlanta. I think we could see a little bit of increase. Plus, Boston's without Wilson Contreras, who's serving his suspension. That does weaken the lineup quite a bit. I think Nolan McLean's an excellent GPP upside play on this slate. The A's White Sox, I'm not really sure what the A's are going to do with Lopez and Savali. Lopez could go 3 to 4 innings, so I just don't know what that means for Savali. I'm just going to stay away from that spot. Sean Burke on the other side is somebody I'm going to utilize. 8 plus strikeouts in 3 out of his last 4 starts. Just 5 earned runs allowed in his last 4 starts. He can have home run issues a little bit, and walks can creep up out of nowhere, but I think the A's overall lineup has struggled enough recently that I think Sean Burke's got a ton of upside. Would have never guessed that he'd strike out 11 against Cleveland. I think there's that kind of strikeout upside in this matchup. Maybe not 11, but 8 to 10 would be nice. At home, he's been worse, but I think he's due for a little bit of positive regression at home. He's allowing fewer base runners per inning at home. So we should see the ERA go down and maybe some wins start happening at home as well. So I think Sean Burke's certainly interesting on the slate. Houston, Texas. We get Hunter Brown, who has not looked good in his return from injury. He was good the first start, but then each start since then have been blah. I'm going to utilize him because at some point he's going to figure it out. I don't know when, but at some point, I'm just going to go with it. He needs to cut down on the walks. That's been a big issue, and get some strikeouts. He hasn't been able to put guys away. That's a little bit of a worry. I am just going to sprinkle him in tonight. I don't plan on being too overly invested, but Hunter Brown is just much better than what he's shown. Cal Quantrill on the other side, I'm just not using Quantrill. Extended out to 66 pitches, probably gets an extension to maybe 80. So maybe he's a 6-inning guy, but I'm going to guess he's probably more of a 5-inning. I just don't really have any interest in Cal Quantrill on a 12-game slate. Angels Twins, Grayson Rodriguez getting the activation from the IL, or expected to be. No thank you. Zebby Matthews on the other side has struggled against a couple of the Angels' bats, but he has plenty of upside. Nearly a 30 fantasy point performance against Houston 2 starts ago, showcasing some of his ceiling. His pitching at home has been far better than on the road as well, and we do know that the Angels have the most strikeouts in all of baseball. Atlanta, St. Louis. Now, obviously, that weather is an issue. I'm not using Kyle Leahy. He's looked pretty good recently. I don't believe in him, so I feel like there's some correction coming. Chris Sale, somebody I want to utilize, but again, we're going to pay attention to the weather. Has looked pretty good much of the season, coming off of a rougher start where he gave up a couple of runs, but just 3 runs. It's the fact that he only struck out 3 that was the issue. Extra day of rest coming into this one. I think Sale's certainly viable. Pay attention to the weather, like I mentioned before. Toronto, San Diego, 0 interest in either pitcher. Sears gets a struggling Toronto team, and he looked pretty good in his last start against the Dodgers. So maybe some people are going to make a case for using him. I just don't think I'm getting there. Toronto is struggling enough, but I just don't think there's enough upside for him. Strikeouts have to come through, and he has to be really sharp, eliminate base runners, etc., just to get 20 fantasy points. And I just don't think that's going to happen. Arizona and the Dodgers. Right before I started recording this, Shohei was scratched. So I'm kind of expecting a bullpen game from the Dodgers. That could change if we get an announcement, so pay attention to that and see if it's somebody that we need to consider. But as of right now, I'm not considering any Dodgers pitching. On the other side, you get Eduardo Rodriguez making the All-Star game. He's made 2 starts against the Dodgers, 1 earned run allowed in 11 innings. So he's looked pretty good. He's been worse on the road, allows a ton of base runners. So he's kind of due some ERA correction on the road because he's allowing so many base runners. I have no interest in using him against the Dodgers. I don't care. I'll survive. If he does fine, I just 0 interest. Even though some of the Dodger lineup has started to cool off quite a bit, but they still lead baseball in runs, so just no interest. Last game on the slate, we're heading into San Francisco. Again, my favorite ballpark to take pitching in. Tanner Gordon, I have no interest in. 4+ earned runs allowed in 4 of his last 5 starts. I get San Francisco's not super dangerous. They did knock him around in Coors, but I just don't have any interest in Tanner Gordon, and I'll survive if somehow he puts up a 25. On the other side, Robbie Ray. I do have interest in Robbie Ray. He has made 2 starts against the Rockies, 10 strikeouts in 10 innings, but 4 earned runs allowed, 5 walks. Those are issues, but he's pitching at home where he's far better. And like I mentioned, this ballpark helps out so much. Prior to his last start in Coors, he had 23, 30, and 32 fantasy points. Was looked pretty good. His K numbers are down a little bit this year, but that's all right. I think that's helped his whip a little bit. There's K upside in the matchup at this point. So there we have it. There's our first look at pitching. If you enjoyed it, bring 2, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell. I'll get the alert anytime we drop videos here at DFS Army. If you want to join us, get access to our coaches, tools, sheets, Discord, etc. I will drop links in the description below. You can use promo code RAZ, that's R-A-Z, for 10% off an MLB package. Or Best Ball 2026 gets you 20% in the NFL or VIP Core 4 membership. Core 4 does include baseball. Best of luck, everybody.